Today, we are gonna build a Squarespace website from start to finish. Over the next 60 minutes, I am gonna walk you through everything you need to know to get started on Squarespace and build a website that you love. Now, before we begin, I do need to provide you with two resources so you have all the tools you need in front of you. The first is going to be what you see on my screen here. This is Gumroad, where I have all my digital products, and you can take a look here. If you like this video, you're going to find a ton of value in these products. And if you are a designer, there's a ton of resources here as well for you that are free. From there, I've partnered with Squarespace to get you 20% off your yearly plan. So use that link down below to get started on your site when you set up your subscription today. All right, let's start here. Just click Get Started. This is gonna take you through a process to build your own version, your own template. You don't need to get stuck here, and if you do have a template you've seen that you love, you could use that as well. But this method, in my opinion, is better than browsing templates and trying to use a template to get started. All right, so let us start building. The first thing it's gonna say is, what is the topic of your site? So this is like home goods. Household supplies, housing and development. Yeah, household supplies is probably perfect. All right, so we'll start there, then we'll hit next. Then it'll ask us, what do you want to sell? Squarespace offers a ton of resources, whether you have courses or a community or digital products or physical products, all that stuff. You got a lot of options. My big note to you here is, as we go through this initial phase, don't get stuck. You could always add later. And if you're not launching with something, you don't necessarily need to worry about it now. That will only delay and procrastinate and slow down you getting your site live. All right, so here I would say a few things. We are going to sell services, we're going to send invoices, we are going to sell products, and we will promote a physical location. Great, then I'll hit next. Now here it's going to offer me to choose a template or build a template. In this case, I'd like to build a template. Either way is fine, but I'm going to start with building a template. Now we are in their Blueprint AI tool, and I'm going to paste in my name, household or products. And then from there, I'm going to select friendly for the personality. This is just going to help you as you guide through these next steps. So here's some sample text that's pulled up. Stocking up on home essentials has never been easier. We're here to make your household chores a breeze with our wide range of quality supplies. Let us help you keep your home sparkling, clean, and cozy, all with a smile. Like, awesome. All right, I'm already off to the right start. All right, so we'll hit next here. Now it's going to ask us to start to imagine what the home page and other pages can look like. In this case, we'll have an intro section, and then it gives you options here to decide what you'd like. Again, you could customize this later, but we'll select some things now and go from there. I'm going to go with this for the initial direction. I even love the imagery that it's pulled. From there, we'll have a product section. I like this. This feels better. Services below that. We don't have appointments, digital products. An about section would be great. In this case, let's do something like yeah, the one we have is great because we're going to point people to our about page, and then we'll have a footer for sure. Let's do something like that. And then social section. Yeah, that's fine. We could use that as well, customize that later. And boom, just like that, we built the homepage. Literally, what was that? 15 seconds? It's pretty insane if you ask me. Now we'll go next. And here it's going to ask you, what pages do you want on your site? So here's about, contact, shop, services, and then there's appointment and courses. In this case, I don't have either of those, don't need either of those, and so I'll skip that. I'll hit next. And now we get into what you could say is the fun part, but might be challenging if you've never done this before. Now we get to select the color palette. In this case, we have this like white and gray and black that you see right now, but you could select other ones and then see what it looks like on your site. Again, all of this is editable as you go through the process, but as a general starter, it's a great way to get a feel for what your site can look like. Let's just talk about color quickly. More colors doesn't mean it's more dynamic. If you are starting out a site, I would really recommend focusing in on one color, like this blue palette here. This green one can work as well, but you get into a lot of interesting design when you go into these two bold colors, this like dark purplish blue and then this orange-ish. it gets really busy. Like this to me is really, really busy. It takes away from the site, but it's going to be a lot harder to have a professional website when you are going into more advanced color options. So keep it simple, white, black, or like off-white, off-black with one color, and then variations around that will give you a beautiful site. Trust me, I built so many websites. You do not need a lot of colors to get started. Here we go. We'll go back here and then we'll hit next. Then we'll take a look at fonts. Now, fonts express your brand really, really, really well. But you also want to keep in mind that you don't want to go too far off on the edge to just have some unique website. And most of these out of the box are okay, but you do want to customize it a bit. In this case, I want this to be playful, but also professional. And so I'm going to try to find something that falls in the middle there, not too playful like this. This to me is way too energetic. The font is doing way too much. I don't need all that. This could work. This like friendly home right here is awesome. This is cool. But the body text, I would take it away from a serif and make it a sans serif, which is more like this body text here. You can't really see it, but it's like this font here. So for now, I'll click through a few of these, and honestly, I think I like this one the most, but I do want to change the body text, which I'll do in the next step. And so just like that, we have built out our site. We got a feel, we got a brand, we want to customize it a bit, and then let's get into the actual editing experience. So let me hit finish, and just like that, it is starting to build the website for us. Boom, here we go. We literally have our own website and it is built, and we can start to navigate it and explore how we like. It also has the mobile side already optimized for you. Like honestly, out of the box, this is incredible. You could update the content to whatever you like, but generally we are already crushing it, and we have spent what, 10-15 minutes on this? Now, there are a few design issues and things I want to work on. As you can see here, this button just kind of is hidden. It feels almost like you can't see it. This looks really, really nice. But like I told you earlier, I don't like this body font. It's okay, but for this brand, I need a little bit more sophistication with a sans serif. All right, so let's go into site styles and start making some edits. The first thing is for fonts. I'm going to click here and then go into paragraph. This is where I'll be able to change the body font. And here I'm going to select a font I know. If you're looking for fonts, this is where this video is going to be really helpful. Go to Google Fonts, and basically I think all of these fonts are available inside of Squarespace for you. So some of my favorite fonts here would be like an Instrument Sans. It's a really, really nice font, which if I go back here and show you, if I go to Instrument Sans for the body font already, that feels really, really nice. Like, I love it. It's really clean. It's elegant. Really, really good feel. And now you can see the difference. So this font up here is a serif because it has these little, like, I forget what they call it, these little endpoints here, where a sans serif is, sans means without the serifs. It doesn't. So you see this S right here. It just is the like normal S without the little serifs on the end. Now, going back to Google Fonts, one thing I would do here is I would go to sort by, and I go to most popular or newest and take a look at what they got. So Roboto Mono, that's cool. Some of these are other languages, that's fine. That's really interesting. Not sure if that's in Squarespace, but that's really, really loud. That's very, very unique. Some other cool fonts here that you could take a look at. These are awesome. Nothing's really sticking out to me that is relevant for what we're doing, but it is cool to see these. This is interesting. That's a nice font. Not for us, but it's a cool font. All right, let's go back to most popular. Now, these are really good. Montserrat is a great font. Inter is a great font. Intertight is a great font. Lotto is amazing. Oswald is used a ton. A lot of these fonts are throughout the internet. You can find them almost anywhere. These are all really, really good fonts. So if you are selecting these for your site, this is a great place to begin. The other thing I would say, this is what you want to keep in mind as you're working with fonts. If it's body font like this, the paragraph fonts, that's body font, 400 for the weight is ideal. That is what you call regular. You know, when you make something bold, like that's like 600-700. But here 400 is regular size. So I wouldn't want to make it like 700. It's really too hard to read. Keep it around 400. For headlines, what you want is around 600. So this font, Young Serif, is kind of an anomaly. It only has one font style, and that font style is 400, but by itself is already thick. So let me just show you another example so you get a feel for it. If I go here and I type in, let's say, enter tight, it looks really thin and bad here. But if I type this in and then I go to 600, that is like a great user experience, and the eye knows what to look at and how to read the content. It flows really nicely, feels very professional just by following some simple rules. 600 is great for headlines, 400 is great for paragraphs and body text. From there, you then want to pay attention to heading sizes, which we'll talk about now. All right, so let's take a look here. The first thing is you see this base size and it says 16 pixels. This is what all the font sizes on your entire website are based off of. So 16 pixels equals 1 rem. All right, so paragraph 2, you see it right here. This is 1 rem. It is a math equation that allows your site and all your sizes to be fluid, but also be proportional. This is a really powerful tool that allows you to see all your font sizes, scale them really well for desktop and mobile without having to do a lot of heavy lifting. So in this case, paragraph 2, which is your body text, should always equal 1 rem. Now, if you want to make this bigger, you don't make it bigger by going 1 or 1.2 or anything like that. The way you make this bigger is you keep it at 1. You keep it at 1, and then you would adjust the base font, because this would change all your other font sizes in proportion to your core font size. I know we're going in depth, but this is giving you a great understanding of what you're doing and what to focus on as you build. So in my case, I liked 16, but let's just even keep it at 17 right now, and then we'll go further from there. Now, the next thing I want to know is for headlines. I know I'm jumping around a little, but this is going to be really useful. For line height, for headlines generally, I'm more around the 1 or 1.1 side of things because it just feels a little bit nicer. In this case, I'm going to do 1.1. To me, it just feels nicer overall in the experience. I don't need too much space between my headlines. For other fonts, you may, so just play with that. Letter spacing is huge. Now, this is negative 0.02. In some cases, this works if it's just 0, but the negative, the negative going down this way, let's add a 0 here to 0.01 or 0.02 or 0.03. Let's do negative 0.03. Let's do negative 0.03 em. There we go. To me, that looks really nice. It's still legible, but it's tighter. And even here, this just looks better than if it's at 0. Now, text transformation is nice if you do want to make everything uppercase. So if you want all your headlines to always be uppercase, it is a set feature that goes across all your headlines. In this case, I don't want that, so I'm just going to hit the back button and we'll keep it just like that. From there, you could adjust these. In my case, I really like these. Generally, right now, it looks good. I might do heading 4 a little bit smaller. Maybe a 1.2, and then might play with them a little bit more down the road, but for now it's good to go. And now we're going to go back to the paragraph font, and here we're going to play with the line height. In this case, it's 1.4. I think 1.6 actually will work nicer, and if I'm doing a blog, I'll probably want to do 1.6. But anywhere between 1.4 to 1.7 would probably be ideal. When you are reading anything in long format, the spacing between the lines makes it easier to absorb the content, and the readability quality, the scale of that just increases dramatically. So making sure it's easy to skim content and read your content quickly is really helpful. In this case, we'll stick to 1.6 for now. And letter spacing is 0. For paragraph text, do not change that. 99% of the time, you don't want to change that. Moving this up to 0.2, it's just weird. It doesn't look good. So 0 EM is great, and I would not change text transformation here. I would leave it as is. And then this, I am going to make a little smaller. You can't see it on my screen, so pay attention to that. Sometimes you make changes and you can't see it. But in this case, it's really important to kind of just prioritize good scale, all of that. I know I want that for paragraph 3. And actually, I will say a note. I know I've done an advertisement already, but I do have a template that has a page in it. It's my Scale Creative Wireframes. That's a template that allows you to see all the headings, body text, paragraph text, everything, so that you can customize it on one page in one go and make it really, really easy. All right, so we've done headlines and paragraphs. Next, we'll need to do buttons. Buttons are fast, but a little bit meticulous. So now we just got to go into each one and make the adjustments. I do want to keep buttons as intertight, and so I'll use that. And then I'll go to 600. It's going to look better. Text transformation, uppercase, super easy, simple for me to manage. But then we got to do that for all the buttons, which might be a little tedious, but hey, we just got to do it really quick and then we'll be done. Text transformation, uppercase, and then here, intertight, 600, and then we will do uppercase. We may change the sizing later, but because I don't see it, I'm not going to worry about it right now. Final thing, for the miscellaneous, we'll change that as well. I'm going to do intertight here, and then I will do, let's see, I don't know if I see this on my screen. It's not actually here, so it's actually really hard to tell. So I'm just going to leave it like that. We could adjust it later if we need to down the road and go from there. Finally, it's worth noting, I may want to adjust these buttons a little bit because the way they look right now, I actually want them to be a little bit thicker as they are text in the menu, and I would rather have them be semi-bold. So I'll go to Assign Styles, and then from here for your site navigation, it's set to paragraph, and then the size is paragraph 2. So this is your default size, 1 rem, and here we got the style is set to paragraph. If I want to change it to headings, so it's actually intertight, I could do that. And then from there, I could do custom, which pulls all that data for what headings are, but then allows you to customize it a little further. So in this case, I want all of these to be uppercase. I prefer that. The line spacing is a little close when it's uppercase, so I may do 0.2 or let's do negative 0.01 EM. We'll do that and I'll keep it like that. Now, in this case, because the logo and the headline text are all the same, this actually kind of gets hidden a little bit. So I may change it down to 500 or even 400 and then use that as the goal. And then again, playing with this a little bit, I may do something like that because it just gives a little bit more contrast and hierarchy, so I know what's more important. Like in this case, the logo feels a little small compared to this, where it's kind of being drowned out. But if you have a logo design there, it doesn't need to be big. This is just text, so it looks a little off. But if there was a logo design there, it would be perfect in that size, just as it is right now. Okay, we are making a lot of progress. Let's go back here. We're going to get out of fonts. And then we're going to go to colors. Now, I mentioned earlier that I want to get rid of this cream color and go to a white. So I'm going to hit Edit Palette. All right, so here I am in the color palette. So let me kind of see where these colors are falling. First, let's click on this one here, and I'm going to copy it, and then just kind of see what changes. Okay, so that's actually the background here for all of these sections. And this is technically what I want to be white. So to me, that already is looking a lot better in terms of the user experience of just most websites with a white background are always going to be clean and nice. Potentially, I could do like a soft, like off-white, but not too much. It should not be drastic. One of my favorite tools to use here would be coolers. This tool is awesome. So what I would do here is I would do start the generator. You don't even need to buy this. If you hit the space key, it will give you all these color palettes. Now there's a lot going on here. Again, we want to keep colors simple, but what I recommend is you can come in here and select the colors you do love. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to copy that, that, and that. And then we're going to go in here and just slowly start to add these colors in. All right, so these are the 5 colors right now. In this case, I like this tone, but let's look at a few other shades. So if I hit shades, I can go a little bit darker. So let's see how that looks on the website as the core color. Boom. All right, to me, that already feels better. It's a little bit darker, which is nice. Here, I like to keep this to white or an very, very, very light off-white. But in this case, I like the white overall. And generally, this would be my white, but the way this is set up right now, it's a little bit different. If I go back here, you'll see this is light 1, which I would probably do the lightest one in this case. So I am going to flip it because I don't want to confuse you. So I'm going to go white here, and then here, I'm going to add in that color, which would be this. And then we'll make some adjustments to the actual page styling. But generally, you want to go from lightest to darkest. In this case, this off black is a little too light for me. I'm going to go a little darker, and we're good there. And again, I could go in here and test this stuff out. So I could do this. I could lock a few colors, basically like that. Or let's lock this. I'm going to unlock that. And then boom, you could start to play with it. Like right there, it's already a whole different feel, which is kind of nice, but we want to emphasize the brown. So we're going to just kind of keep hitting the space bar until we find other colors that we may like or may work. Like this smoky black may work really well. And maybe this can be better if it's a little darker or a little lighter. So you could start to play with that. And you could also use these shades. So this might be the shade you use for, let's say, color 2 right here. So like for this spot, you might use that shade. And already that looks nice, super simple, right? It's easy to use and navigate. And again, we're all basing this on one core color. I'm going to copy that and then go back here and then paste that in. We're good to go. Now from here, you could get lost in this really quick. You get lost really, really quick. There are 10 stylings and you will probably only use 3 of these stylings, maybe 4 max for the majority of your sections. I never use darkest 2. I rarely use dark 1. And some of these other ones are just weird. Like dark 2 is weird. It kind of could work. Depends on your site and your brand. But for now, I wouldn't worry about that too much. What you should know though is if you're using light 1 here, and let's just say, for example, you want this to be black instead of this like brown, well, you could click on light 1 or you could click right here. In either case, it'll take you into this editor experience. And then you could just click on the section. Now this is right here. I want to try to find this color. In this case, it may be that I don't see it here. Let me do show all. And then here I'll look for links. Now this may be where it is pulling this color from. I could be wrong, but we want to try it. And I don't know if it's headlines. I think it's headlines for the font, but I'll come in here and click and boom, that was correct. So I was able to change it and then make that adjustment here if I like. So there you'll see it disappears. That obviously doesn't look good. This could work, but we may want to go a little darker, so I'll do something like that. And boom, just like that, I've adjusted that color specifically for this section. Now, all of your sections on your site, now all of these are light 1. This is darkest 1, but you could use those across your site and customize them. Next thing I want to touch on is buttons. Now, I know we're doing a lot of work here, but once you do this once, you are good to go. All right, so buttons are a little bit big, in my opinion, in terms of padding and spacing. So top and bottom is 1.2. I'm going to take this down to 0.8 and 1.6. Personally, I like that a lot more. Let's see if we see it. I don't see it on this page, but we'll go to secondary. Actually, that should be that button. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. Secondary, same thing. I'm going to do 0.8 and then 1.6. As you can see, that's like just double. So top and bottom is half of the sides. Perfect. And then this one, I don't really know if I'll use it, so I'll just leave it as is right now, and then we'll go from there. And that is worth making a quick note. As you can see here, I made edits to this, and I couldn't really see it on the page, but I know it made the edits. So what I would do in this case is I would hit save, and you probably should have hit save a while ago. I have not hit save at all, but in this case, I'd hit save, and then I'd refresh the page, give it a second, and then from here, double check what the buttons look like. And I remember, I know exactly why it's doing that. Let me go out of this. These buttons are set to fill. Yeah, these buttons are set to fill. So what that is there's a setting here for design that's fit or fill. Right now it's set to fill, so it will fill this blue box however you like, however big it is. So in this case, if I went crazy and I just went boom, and I want the button to look like that, I could do that. The other option is if I go in and I hit fit, it'll take the styling of what I just set up right now in the site styles panel. So boom, I really like that button size. It's clean, it's nice, it's not too invasive. I actually would adjust this button here. First, I'll make this full like that, and then I'll go design and go fit, and then move it off to the side, which I think already looks way nicer. I don't need this extra space between these two, so I'll bring those closer together, and then I'll move this text actually down a little bit so the alignment is a little bit better, and boom, just like that. We have a really, really beautiful header. This image almost needs to be flipped so that, because it's like a little busy here, it's almost like this text and this stuff should be on this side. That, maybe? I don't know, I'm just playing with it. But in this case, and actually, it could be good just center. With this specific image, this is like really, really nice. Yeah, that's great. And then we go from there. So some small detail changes and all that. But we're going to get into layouts now and building out pages. All right, from there, you could also customize the forms, but I am going to just postpone that for now. The only thing I'll do is I'll click into it. You'll see the different options here, and then basically you could select one you like. In this case, I do just like the basic, super simple form here. This is great to me, so I'm going to use that as a starting point and then leave it at that. You could also look at a lot of other packs as well and designs, but generally I think the one I've selected I'm happy with. Good to go. Now, the only thing to keep in mind here at the very bottom is miscellaneous. I would recommend for spacing to make 2 adjustments here. The first one is already set for you, but it might be a little different, so you could double check it, which would be setting your site to 1400 pixels or 1440. This is really important because it is the width of your entire grid and your site, which we're going to start working on now. And if you change it later, it could feel a little funny when you're developing your site. The other one is site margin. Site margin is really important. You don't want to go too low, but I usually recommend, so here is like 0, where your text and content touches the edges. Not ideal in most cases. Generally, what I love the most is 3, especially when it comes to mobile. This look and feel is going to be really nice, where if you go any closer, it starts to look a little bit funny. It's not showing anything here, but generally, I've noticed that it's way better in this kind of setup to begin. All right, let us hit save. We are going to exit. And now let's just take a look at a few core things in Squarespace that are important for you to know. You will spend 90% of your time in pages or styles. We just did all that work in styles. The other percentage of your time is just in pages. Now, let me just give you a quick overview of this platform so you get a sense of it. If you ever want to edit a page, you just need to navigate to that page and then hit edit right up here. From there, you have pages. This is where you can see all your pages, your main navigation, and then not linked. Not linked just means it's not in your main navigation. That's all it means. It doesn't mean it's hidden or anything else. It just means it's not in the navigation, which most pages won't be. Then you'll go back, and then you can go here to settings. Settings is where a lot of your website is managed. And when it gets time to go live, there are 3 steps that you're going to want to follow. I'm going to touch them high level. If you want more training on that, I do have a video on how to publish your site. But basically, you're going to want to connect a domain. You're going to want to set up billing, and you're going to want to make sure your site goes live. As you can see here, it's currently private because I'm not paying for it. It won't let me go public. But once you pay for it, you could then go live. All right, so let's take a deeper look at pages. Here you'll see you have your navigation and then not linked. Here, if you click on this plus sign or this plus sign, you'll get the same options, and you could easily click and drag things around. There is no limit here in terms of what you can do with dragging items around. From here, I'll click the plus sign. You get a lot of options in this menu. All right, so blank page, page layouts, basically same thing. This is just like a template versus a blank page. Scheduling helps you build a scheduling page. Same thing as a blank page. Now, when you get into collections, these are all different and have varying options for what you can do. If you are building a course, that's going to be different than a video series, which is different than events, which is different than a portfolio, different than a store, different than a blog. All of those operate differently and give you different functionality. And so those are uniquely built tools, CMSs, that you can leverage on your site. In this case, most of our pages, because we are not running a course or anything, are going to be blank pages, but we will need a shop, which they already started one for us, and we'll take a look at that in a moment. Down here, you have member sites if you do want to create a membership type website, and then you have options for your menu and navigation, like drop downs and links. A drop down allows you to have a folder. So for example, if in my services I had 3 services and I was going to have 3 pages, I could have services and then say home design, interior design, and consulting, or whatever the services are, and link to those 3 pages. So I would select a drop down and then I would put those pages underneath it. And a link is really helpful in a lot of different ways, but generally you could link to any page of your site or a different website, or if you want to link to a specific category. So for example, let's say you have a blog and you have a category, health and wellness. Well, if you want to link to any post in that category specifically, well, you could use a link, put that URL in there, and when someone clicks on it, it takes them directly there. That's very similar to products, right? So if we have a shop in the menu, but you want to give people the opportunity to click on specific products in your shop, you could select those products and put them in a way that allows people the opportunity to click directly on the product and go directly there versus having to go to your shop and then go to that product. Now, I know we've covered a lot so far, but this part of the tutorial, we're going to get into all the pages, creating content, layout sections, and building out your website. But if you need a quick coffee break, this is a good time to take a quick break and then come right back. Okay, so let's talk about building pages. Here, I'm going to click on a few of my pages just to get a feel for it. And as you can see here, again, Squarespace built all of this out for us, which is awesome. We could learn to customize it further, design it the way we like. There's a lot we could do here that we're going to get into in a moment. But I do just want to kind of high level take a look at everything, get a feel for it, see what I like, don't like, all of that, and go from there. And before we get into any further pieces, I do want to share some resources with you that I absolutely love when I'm building my site. The first one is going to be Phosphor Icons. This icon set is beautiful, easy to use, and really user-friendly. So right here, you have some options of how you want the icons to look. Let's just do duotone. Then from here, you could search for a specific icon. Let's say house. Let's say cleaning. Let's do that. Okay, perfect. Cool little brush here. I may want to use that. Washing machine. This is awesome. The size is currently 32 pixels. You can make this as big as you want because you can control it on your website later on. But just like this, you could see, boom, I'm like able to pick an icon. I could adjust the color here, so I can click here and then add in the hex code that I want. All right, so if I want to use something like this 977B5E, there we go. Just like that, we can start to use it. And if we want to choose any other color, we can. But you can see here what the icon looks like, which is really cool. Down here, once I find an icon I like, the size I like, the format I like, if I want to go regular, or if I want to go bold, however I want the icon to look, find that styling. From there, I can go down here and then click PNG and this download. So if I download this, I can then upload that to my site. Now this is completely free. You could use this however you like. The other tools I like are Flat Icon. They have a lot of great icons. It does cost money and you have to pay monthly for it. So just consider that as you are using it, or you have to attribute the authors in your footer. But either way, they're great, and there's a ton more icon packs out there, but those are 2 of my favorite that I like to use with Squarespace websites. From there, let's talk about stock imagery. This website is Unsplash, beautiful stock imagery. A lot of it, in my opinion, is dated. It's like the world of stock imagery has just kind of like died in this case of like free stock imagery, but it could be a good starting point for some images that you need or want to format. This is also built into Squarespace. So as you're building your site, if I go back here and I click edit, and then I go into an image and double click on that, and then I hit replace, and then I say browse stock images, you could actually browse the free ones here from Unsplash the same way. So if I want to say texture, I could come in here and like look at some of these and pull some of these for my website, which is really cool. There are other websites like pixels.com, and there are also other sites like Lumi, which takes on the AI side of it to make it really easy for you to pull a ton of images and photos for your site. I'm going to show you how to build a site, but just want to kind of pull some stuff that we got and then go from there. All right, so let's exit here. I'll save. And now we're going to build a new service page. So what I'll do is in the not linked section, I'll go to the plus sign and I'll hit page layout. Again, we could drag it around how we like. This is going to be kitchen refresh. All right, so I am starting with a blank page. So we are going to go to edit. And then we're going to do add section. Now in this case, we have save section, so we could pull from here, or you could pull from any of these sections. In my opinion, most of these sections are way too complex and not needed, and I wish there were just some more basic ones. Some of these work, some are okay, but some of it's just too complicated. Like there's just so much going on here that we just don't need. We don't need to use every little feature that Squarespace has that only starts to show that we're new to this. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to start with a blank section and then we're going to build from there. Now I'm going to hit G on my keyboard, and what you see here is a grid. This grid is the building block for all your sections on your site. It looks a little confusing at first, but it is actually really easy once you get into it. Now this grid is set to that 1440 pixel width. So if I make the site really small, you'll see it. There's a lot of dead space. So if you have a lot of dead space on your site, it might be the width of the screen size that you have set. And honestly, I think 1440 is great for 90%. 98% of sites to begin. From here, a few things to note. There's some extra space on top, extra space on bottom, and then there's this little tab here, so you could drag and move this around. I'm going to show you how to leverage these in the best way possible for all your pages. All right, so the first thing is we'll hit edit section. For this header section, you'll see it says row count here is 11. How do you want the grid to look? And then fill screen, height, alignment, all of that stuff. In this case, this is how I describe this. So if you hit these three dots, you'll be able to control this. And basically what this does is this says fill up 100% of the screen height by this, or adjust it accordingly depending on the content, right? So if you have a ton of content, it'll overfill it. But if you have only like a little bit of content, let's say, let me drag this down a little bit. Do you see how it keeps the section height the same to this like 92? So if it was 100, it would fill this space perfectly. You see how just right when I scroll, you see it at the very bottom? That is because it's set to 100. If I set it to 50, it takes up 50% of the screen real estate. So S, M, and L are just like quick ways to get there. L is 100%, M is like 70%, I think, or 60, and then S is like 30. So you have quick ways of getting there, and then you could decide how do you want to align the content? Do you want it above, like at the very top, at the very bottom, or do you want it center? The last thing here to know is you have this divider, which again, a lot of these are really, really busy, but what I recommend here is you could play with it. One of my favorite ones is this one, slight just like movement, but what I would do is I do width all the way, so just very slight, and then for the height, I would do it very thin, like just barely, like 3 is more than enough. Then I'll go back, and then the one thing I'll do here is the thickness just needs to be 1, and then the color could just be so light. Like this is just like that. You see how just like slightly there? It doesn't need to be loud. It doesn't need to be in your face, but you could see it. It's already there. It's great. No worries, no stress at all. Boom. So just like that, we've added that. And then now we can start to add content to this section. If we want a background image, we're going to go back into that section, to edit the section, and then you'll click background. You could add an image, video, or art. We could take a look at art later, but full bleed, inset, take a look at all of that. In this case, you just click plus. You could browse stock images. Let's just select this image just for the sake of for a moment. And then we'll take a look at a few things because I wanted to show you all the different experiences and variations of how you could build this. Now, this image is here. You could really like it, hate it, all that, but it's here now. So overlay opacity, we could adjust this accordingly. Now, this is going a little light, but I actually want it to go dark. So what I would do is I go to colors, go to darkest because that is already preset to a darker tone. And then I'll go back and then I could adjust it accordingly to what I like. So in this case, that already looks way better, really easy to read, all of that. Inset, you'll see here, gives you a border, can work in some settings, can work in other settings. All right, so that is how a background image works. You could have that there, you could have a video, whatever you like. For now, we will get rid of that, and then we'll go back to colors, and then this is where you could adjust which colors you want for the section. Now in this case, I think it started as like light 1 or light 2, but in my opinion, I'm gonna just start with light 1 for our service pages. I would rather start there, and then we could adjust more as we go. Okay, so let's start working on sections here. So I'll do add block, and then from here, I want to add in an image. And then from there, I will also add in text, and then I'll also add in a button. Those are 3 core elements of a great header that we're just gonna use and start building. So I'm just moving these over here, then we're gonna start building. So I'm gonna make this image wider and then actually taller. So I actually might do something like this, pull this down. This is a little bit tall because there's a lot of extra space up here, which we may adjust in a moment. But just like that, we've added in that image, in that space. Now let me go in here and do browse stock images. Okay, this is perfect. This is a style, this is a great photo. So I love stock imagery. This is a great place to start. What I'll do is I'll click this pencil, and then I will click design. I will click in fill. So if you notice, there's a little bit of white space here. So I'll do fill. If you want to do a shape, you can. So you can customize this to a specific shape. And then they got a ton of options here for you to choose from. If you want to do something fancy, again, I highly recommend keeping it simpler to start. But in this case, we could do something like that. That would be the furthest shape I would do versus just having it do fill and then doing some kind of corner. So in this case, I could do 10, I could do 14, I could do 24. Let me start with 14 for now, and then we may adjust it later. But just like that, we're starting to move. I hit G on my keyboard to get rid of the grid, and it looks really nice. One thing I'm gonna do to add some layering is I'm gonna add in a shape, and then I'm gonna throw this shape behind here. So I'm gonna just drag it, and I'm gonna move it back, and then just like that, I can add this shape. I'm actually gonna put it on that side. That's perfect. Okay, cool. And I'll pull those two a little bit closer to this edge. So there's extra white space on the side, but generally it just looks good right there. Now let's get into text. So I'm gonna do text, and then I'm gonna add in our headline. Oh, I'll do this. Transform your house into a home. Then for headlines, we always want to use at the very top of the page, H1, everything below that will be H2, 3, 4, blah, blah, blah. But for the top of the page, we want it to be H1. Again, it grew because I didn't have the space ready. If I just do that, and then I do, and I do H1, boom, it doesn't affect the image. And then from here, we could adjust how we want the text to sit. So in this case, I like how it sits like that. This image is a little bit taller than I want, so let's cut it down again. Let's move that up. Now for text, I'm gonna do a separate box. I just held down the Alt key on my keyboard, and then I'll change this back to like paragraph 1. Could be paragraph 2, but let's just start there. And then we'll make this text work. Start today by transforming your home for less than $1,000. Okay, perfect, that's great. So it's paragraph 2, I will change this to paragraph 1. It's kind of big text, but that's okay. What I'll do here is, okay, you see there's a few things going on. When I drag down, it works, but if I drag up, I see this red line. Basically, it's saying that's as far as you can go. But you might be like, well, there's some extra dead space here. It is a little annoying, but it's kind of just how this grid works. So what you can do is you could do this vertical alignment to center or at the bottom, which makes it really easy for you to now see how the content sits together. Same thing here. You'll see there's like almost a full space here. So I might try to play with the font size or the line height to bring that together a little bit more, because it just kind of pushes the button down a little bit too far in my opinion. I will change this to fit and then go like that, and then actually also do this. So it's all like that, but I do not like the wasted space below here. So I will go to the site styles really quick. I wouldn't spend a ton of time on this because you could get lost in the sauce real fast, but I will go to paragraphs and then change 1.4 down to 1. Let's just do 1.3 and then line height 0.5. I know it changes a lot of the site, but just a minor adjustment. Let me see how that looks, and let me see if I can move this up. I can't. Do you see how just that minor change allowed me to have more flexibility there. Boom, I have those 3 items. I can now move them where I want. And now I have this section built. All right, so we'll go to edit section, and I'm just gonna get rid of this like height as well. So that there's just a little space up here, and then boom. Because the image already fills the page, which is great for me. I like it. I'll move this up again. We're good. Awesome. Literally looks great. It's a great header section. If you want to get really fancy, I don't know if I do it for both the image and this, but you could do something like this, where it just adds a little bit of life and layering to your site. Again, you could adjust the actual shape. Right now it's a square. You can make this a circle. You could play with it how you like. Don't copy me exactly here. You don't have to, but just kind of showing you some ways of using the tool to your advantage. The color here could be a little bit too much as well. So you could come in here and then adjust the color further and just make it really light. So it's almost like not even there, but it's still there, which is really, really cool. So you could play with that, adjust it how you like, move it around. And if you make a mistake, you go back. But I'm really happy with this. And now we're gonna go on to do the next core part of this section. Now, usually I would build out all of the page, but I kind of just wanna prioritize showing you how to think about this before we go too far. The next thing I would think about is this little blue dot up here for mobile view. And as you can see here is it did not adopt the styling. When you layer stuff, it doesn't adopt the styling well. So in our case, we got a little bit of work to do. I'm gonna pull this circle here. I'm gonna make this a lot smaller and then just drop it. That actually works, but the one thing I'll do is it's stretching it. I'll just turn that off. I don't need it to stretch it. I can move that here. And then all these elements here, I'm gonna wanna move up, all right? So how do we do this? So I'm gonna just put this on top of that. And then with selecting shift, I will drag these down and then I'll move them down with my arrow, just like that. I'll copy this or highlight it, move it back, put that there. Let's do that. And then let's move all this up. There's still some work to do, but I just wanted to grab it, which is great. And then I'll go like this. Okay, so I actually might throw that off to the side and then just keep this fully center. Boom. So it looks like that. Might be a little too wide, but that's okay. We could work with it. Now, one thing I would say, now in this case, the little dot could work, but it could actually be a little annoying. So there's a few options. One thing you could do here is you could drag it to the end, which you could then kind of like leverage it that way off the edge if that feels better. And then I do need to move it back. That's why it's kind of looking a little funny. So it works like that, but you might not like it. So a quick tip, a little hidden trick you could use is, let me move this content up. Between sections like this, I leave one space, but as you can see here, these blue lines fill in all the space in between, and then I just leave one in between. Maybe 2 max on some of them, but generally just 1, and it looks really good. So I don't really like this on mobile. What I would do here is I drag it on the image, like in the center, and then just move it back. Just move it all the way back and it's gone. Here, I'll do Command A, select everything and move it up to the top row, just so it hits the very, very top of the page. And boom, just like that, we have now designed the mobile experience for that section. I want to drag this up to the top. I usually never leave extra sections here like this. If I want more space here, I would go to, click out of this, I go to Edit Section, and then I would add more space in the section. This just helps make the site way more consistent. So if all of your sections are medium, or the majority of them are medium, it's gonna feel way more consistent than just guessing like, oh, I have 2 here and I don't have 2 there and I have 4 there. It's like, that's confusing. Keep everything to a consistent size. You will love your website. It'll feel really nice. It'll be a really good experience. Now, I know we are hitting a lot, so let's hit a couple of more of these sections a little faster. The next one I'll do is I'll do Add Section. I'll go to Save Section. I'm going to pull this. I really like this section for like who we are, but I'm just going to get rid of the image, and I'm going to kind of do the inverse here. So instead of heading 1, I'm going to do this heading here, and I'm going to do all caps, who we are, boom, and then center that. And bring that here. Again, this section's interesting. When Squarespace does their own sections, yeah, there's no spacing here, which it should have spacing. So I'm gonna do fill screen, I'll do medium, and then I will leave it at that. And then for background, I like these two. So I'm gonna do light 2, And then let's move this up. That's center. You'll see that yellow line shows up for you, but I'm just going to make this really big. And then I'm going to make this like a heading 3 or a heading 2. In this case, let's just do heading 3. I'll center it. And then I will do the same thing with the button. So put that there, and then I will center the button there. Boom, this up, just like that. Now we have this really cool branded section. It feels nice right out the gate. Really easy to look at and get a feel for. Again, you could potentially use shapes if you want to accent stuff just lightly, but it feels really nice. I think the color contrast is a little light. I might work on that a little bit more because it feels a little bit like dull. I want it to pop, but overall, this is a great start to a new section. You always want to make sure the buttons work as well. So let me actually do that. So in this case, to learn more, I'm going to write book a call and then do add a link. And this would go to our contact page right here. And all you need to do is type in / and then contact. I probably am giving you some tips on how to use the platform that I'm not even talking about because I just did that and didn't even think about it. But that's a great way to do that. You also have other options if you want to add a file, an email, a phone number, any of that stuff. But boom, just like that, you could add that in. Another cool thing we could do here is if I do this and I do image, I could do this, select the image, upload a file. I downloaded this washing machine. And I could use this as a potential image on this page. So right now it's really big. It doesn't need to be that big. So we'll make it a lot smaller. But something as simple as this, let me drag it to 2 and then move all this stuff down. Boom, just like that. Little touch, little detail, adds a little bit of life to the site. Almost in some cases, I wish it would go like right here next to the text, but that could get really complicated to do it. So I'm just going to keep it simple, and then we would go from there. Now the width of this might be better if it's a little bit shorter as well. Let's do that. That might feel a little bit nicer. Let's do that, center it. And then that's the height. Okay, cool. You could potentially center this section. So if I click on it and then center it here, that can be an option. A little bit too low, but yeah, that works, and we could play with it. From there, if you want to play with it further, you can. Something to be mindful of, if I change this right now, it changes everything except the icon, because the icon is a pre-selected color we have. And so this actually looks really, really nice in my opinion outside of the icon. If the icon was white, it'd be perfect. And then you could select other variations here as well, which overall though, this looks pretty good for something that literally I had no idea about an hour ago. I started making it and we're here now. That doesn't look good. But the other ones look pretty good for what they are. And so we could use this really quickly and efficiently, build something we love, have a site we love, and go from there. So we'll use this and then we'll build out our next section. So I'll do add section. And then here I am gonna use, let's say this section here, and instead of featured products, what I'll do here is featured, just say benefits. All right, and then I'm gonna do this as an H2. Remember, the only H1 is at the top of the page. Then here we would talk about some of the benefits. Remember I copied all that text before? What I'll do is I'm just gonna hit add section. I'm gonna do blank, and then I'm gonna do this just for the sake of it, text, and then just make this really big and then paste this in. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff here. So let's do this. All right, so I'm gonna paste that in for under $1,000. Boom. And then we're not gonna really shop right here, so I'll just delete this button. But these here are pointing to these products. Again, I'm not a big fan of this extra space. I'm not sure why Squarespace does it that way. It might just be their like AI tool of how it does it. But in this case, I would do fill section again, medium, and then I would push all these elements up to the top. And then it looks like there's a weird overlap here, down. And then I would close that gap right there. So I would just go as far up as I can. I would never leave extra space and then go from there. Some really cool tools in here are now if I like highlight these 3 items. Now some really cool tips and tricks. If I highlight these 3 items and let's just say I want to add one more of these products, I could hit duplicate, or I could hold down Option on my keyboard and click and drag it out. And now I have a third one, which if I do want to do something like this, I can, where I can go below. And then customize it that way. And if I even want to try to get fancy, I could potentially do that and then have a 4th one. It looks like it's one too much. Let me do Command A and then unselect those 2. But Boom. If I just do it like that, it should work. It looks like this image is overlapping a little bit. So we'd move that there. And boom, we just added in those 4 items, how we liked. We could even potentially move this up so they're a little bit shorter. And then we just got to do this again. This is a little weird to me, this setup, but it's okay. I'm working with what I got. Boom. And now we have this section built. The next thing I would do is drag that up, and then I would go to edit section, colors. Here we could start to decide what we want it to look like. Overall, I'll do dark 1. I like that. That feels nice. Do you see how we're like starting to build this site out and how it feels? Like this feels really nice, and we literally just started about an hour ago. I am blown away with the power of this. We obviously want to go back to mobile and double check everything. You can see everything is basically flowing. This icon is way too big, but we just drag it. Good to go. Move this up. We would drag this as well until again we hit that red line. Just pull everything up. That's all you got to do sometimes. Seems a little bit tedious, but it's pretty straightforward once you get into it. I'm going to center this one vertically, and then we'll move that up. Now that section is done. It's good to go. Then here, there's some extra space. Again, Command A, highlight it all, move it up all the way to the top. Okay, so there's an issue here. So this needs to go up here and then keep 1 space in between. So there's no space here, so we got to kind of navigate that a little bit, which I'll show you how now. So this is good, and this is good, so I'll drag that up. All right, so these all are good, and then this is good. I'm holding down Shift, boom, all of that, and now I'll just move that down 1. Boom, that's good to go. We're all set. Everything is well in order. I'll double check that this hits the bottom, and we're good. Now we just built out that section and go from there. Now these items here, I like this paint and refinish cabinets, upgrade hardware, blah, blah, blah. I like it all. The way I would do this is, let me go back here and let me just show you a preview. There's a few things. So I'll hit add section. There are some sections that are custom that are different than just a regular section that we've been working on. So now here's the advanced tutorial. There are a few sections that operate a little differently. The first one is going to be, let's go to testimonials. So you'll see a few testimonials here. Down here, there's this little eye icon. This is really important and valuable to note because what this icon means is that this section is a little different. This is what they call a content section. So when I add this to the page, let me add this one specifically. It has the little eye. I'll add this to the page, and you're going to see that you don't have a grid. You actually edit the content in here. So if you go in here, you go to content, you can reorganize these as you like and readjust everything the way you want it to be. Add in new ones, and then you could decide which elements you want, which elements you don't want, all of that in this content section. So that operates a little bit differently. From there, you also have galleries. So let me take a look here. There are 2 types of galleries, and this one is really important to note. Let's go to images. I feel like I'm missing it. There it is. All right, so these are just like images on the page. But then you do have these eyes that give you a different type of gallery. And so if I add this one in here, you're going to see it says edit gallery. Okay, so you see how all of these are a little bit different. There's no more grid here. So you come in here and add in the images you want, and then you could do edit section on how you want it to lay out. If you want it full, if you want full bleed, if you want a certain type of grid, if you want a slideshow, whatever you want, you have full control here. A lot of different customizations and options for you, but it is kind of hidden if you don't know about it. So you can start to use those. Go back to add sections here. You got some other options to consider, videos and different sections as well, menus, forms, charts, audio. All of these are similar features as what we were building before with the grid. So you have full control there. You don't necessarily need to use this to get those features. All of those features are straight up in this grid. So if I go to add block, I probably should have covered this earlier, but you could see here are all the features. So if you want scrolling text, if you want shapes, if you want to add a newsletter, if you want to add forms, buttons, text, video, images, all of it, it's there. And there's also a feature here that says gallery. Now you may see this or you may not see this. Let me just click on it. Most likely you do not see this. Now, I don't know why I have it still. I've been on Squarespace for like 10 years, so it might just be that, but That's a different form of a gallery. I actually wish they bring it back, but for now, let's just act like I didn't show you that. If you're a photographer and you really need that, find a developer that is on Squarespace for a long time, and they could get you that gallery feature. It is a game changer if you are a photographer or need that level of use case. Because that gallery feature down below is nice, but not as powerful as the one I just showed you. All right, so let's go back here, and I do want to show a few of these. So let's go to summary. A summary is really cool because it could summarize either your blog posts or your shop products or potentially other items. So in this case, all I have built right now is the shop, so I can click on that, and boom, just like that, it's able to show the shop products, and then you could like show more data, you could filter it by certain things, you could design it differently, and then in this case, I could drag it all the way across the page and then have them all there. I think it's showing number of items 3, and it's doing a wall, so let's do a carousel. Number of items per row 3. There we go. Now we got all 3 there. Love it. Really, really good. And we're good. So I'll hit save, I'll exit, and boom, take a look at what we're building. Like, it might feel a little bit bare, but overall, like, to start, it's a great start. We can maybe play with the fonts a little bit more, give it a little bit more character. Intertight is a very like unified, like straight professional font, but if you play with the font just a little bit, you could get a cool font. Maybe even Instrument Sans or Instrument Serif there could look really cool overall. Now, the last thing I want to touch on in this video is let's just talk about shop. So if you go into the shop here, you'll be able to see your demo products, and then you could add new products here. Physical, service, group event, consulting package, gift card download, or custom merch. A lot of cool options here. Most of these are going to be physical. If you're selling services, you could use this, or you could use your own invoicing through the back end of Squarespace or a different platform, whatever you like. But in this case, we have physical products, so I would just click on that, and then I would start to build the products. So let's just use what they have, face scrub. And then we would add in images. We'll go to next, give us a few options, but then we get into all the core details. And as you can see here, there are a lot of things that you could include on your site. Now, this is actually new as well. Add to cart form, collect extra info. Well, they had this before, but it was hidden. Now they added it up here. Yeah, that's really cool. Discard, I don't need that. And then boom, yeah, this is great. They're updating this in a really cool way. So you could add the product name, description, the button text, and then additional information allows you to add even more info to the page. All of that good stuff. Images, you could add inventory. You could add unique images for specific inventory. There's a lot here that I cover in other videos, but I just want to touch it really quick before we go any further. Let me publish this. And you'll see it shows up here. So I'll click on this one, this product name. You'll see how this shows up. This is a name, this is the description, the quantity, the button text. And then if you have more additional info, it'd show up below here. Now, just like that, you have launched a website. We have done a lot of great work in this hour or so to get you up and running, a lot of good feedback to get going. So use these tips and tricks, get the most from it, and let me know in the comments down below that you published your website. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.